Welcome, Summoners, to the Instalock Mid podcast, a show about League of Legends, its community, and you. Join us each week as we bring you League of Legends news and discussion from all over the community. I am your host, Mott Ganorum, and let's begin. Well, welcome, folks, to the glorious return of the Instalock Mid podcast. We are back after a few weeks hiatus to kind of reinvent the show and try out some new things. We've got a lot of cool stuff out for you. So let's just get right into it. My week this week has been chaotic, as it's been for the past 2 weeks. I've been working very hard to make the best Instalock mid that you guys could ever imagine, and I am assured it will not disappoint. So I've just been working on content. I've been working on changing up the format, some audio stuff, some more things we're going to talk about later on in the episode. And I've been playing quite a lot of War Z. Going to be doing some different things with War Z in the future, streaming. I'm actually going to be breaking out as my own individual streamer in upcoming weeks. There'll be more on that, I think, in future shows. So this week, I am, of course, joined, as always, by the magnificent Rensler and the unstoppable Aced Deuces. So, Rensler, how has your week been?
Chaotic is about the way to describe my week as well, man. I've had all kinds of crazy stuff going. I've been working at the airport since Monday of this week, replacing tons and tons of hard drives and finally figuring out how to use one of the most completely obtrusive and annoying hard drive duplicators that have ever been made. And I don't know why they need to make these things so complicated. And I have to buy a new engine for my car. And
that's terrible.
It has maybe... Yeah. What?
Do you get TSA'd when you work at the airport?
No.
Or do they kind of just let you?
No, they don't just let me do anything. I actually have to give them my driver's license number early. Ugh. And they don't tell you, but they run a background check. And then they give you this little tag that says, you can go places, but you have to have a official airport person with you. But TSA doesn't have to tag along. But as long as
that's good.
As long as you're within a eye shot of an actual normal employee that has his "I can go anywhere I want" badge, then they don't really bother us. In fact, I actually ran off in the secured zone and pulled a computer out of a stand and ran back while holding wire cutters and a screwdriver that you could use to kill people with, and none of the TSA agents or the Metro Police stopped me, and I was really surprised. I was thinking, I thought I'd have to show my badge to somebody, but apparently you can just do what you want around here. So hopefully that was a fluke, and hopefully that security is a little bit more tight than that normally. Because since they have my driver's license, they have my picture and all of that, so they know who I am on the cameras, because security guys are watching those cameras. They have more people manning the security cameras than you'd ever think. And if you think the cameras aren't looking at you, just assume that they are and go with that, because they are.
Pretty much.
Especially when you're the only...
It's got to be a stressful environment to work in.
Well, for me, no. I didn't worry about security at all. I understand what they do at the airport. I understand why the security is important. I just did my thing, and if they stopped me, they would stop me. I didn't get stopped. Out of 4 days of walking around with a screwdriver that you could easily stab somebody with because it has a big rubber handle that gives me a really good grip, and a pair of wire cutters that are clearly wire cutters. It's not like some kind of ninja, like Swiss Army knife. They're just a big pair of wire cutters. No one came up to me, nothing. It was odd that I didn't get stopped, but that's what I did. So yeah, my engine has about 15,000 miles left on it or so. I can't even add oil to it anymore. I have to add oil stabilizer to prevent the valve tap that I'm getting. That just started after I had my oil change Tuesday. And I now have to fix a few other things as well. Like, it won't start. I have to kick it to start it.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I thought I had it bad because my battery was too cold to start.
It takes a few attempts. It actually takes like 6 attempts to start it, but if I kick it, it'll actually start quicker.
Yeah.
Like literally kicking the firewall.
Speaking of kicking the firewall, Jackson, how's your week been?
I actually just purchased a ring for my girlfriend, Lindsay.
Is it the kind of ring that...
I know what you're thinking. It's not the proposal ring.
Yeah, because it doesn't have any diamonds, as I can see in the video.
It's actually a key that you kind of like wrap around your finger. It's pretty neat. But what it is while she's away at college, I'm going to give her a promise ring saying, hey, once you're done with college, I want to marry you.
That's fantastic.
That's
And that's good.
awesome, man. Congrats.
And we
Thank-
love Lindsay too. She's one of
Exact-
our favorites. So maybe we'll have her record the news hook at some point. But how, other than making that big step in your life, how's your week been?
My week's been pretty decent. This week was a little odd because Thanksgiving's coming up, so everything got shifted around at work to make room for that since we all have Thanksgiving off.
Ooh.
And so I ended up not having my normal days off, and our normal production Wednesday actually became this Friday, so that's tomorrow. So I have to work all day tomorrow. So it's a little bit different, but I mean, it'll be nice to have Thanksgiving off and be able to spend it with Lindsay and my family and whatnot.
Well, very good. And we'll have to figure out something to do because I'm not going to record an episode on a Thursday.
I was going to say,
when
yeah.
we have Thanksgiving.
Instalock Mid will not be recording next week because of Thanksgiving. That's obvious. But I may have something awesome to give you because one of Rise Up Gaming's members is coming to Vegas with her family just to party out. And we're going to go out on Wednesday evening to insert coins and just go crazy. So
nice.
We might actually have content for that. It might be some kind of special segment that we say, hey, here's what we did.
Great. Well, that sounds fantastic. So on to the episode. We are going with a little bit of a different format. I just wanted to take a brief second to kind of explain how we're going to do things now. So in the past, we would go through our news section. We would have some sort of main topic, usually featuring a guest that we have on the show. We'd get into a community to discuss briefly, and then we'd end the episode. And this week, we're going to take a little bit different. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it over to Awinia from League of Girls, who's going to give you the news for this week.
Season 2 is over and the preseason for Season 3 has already begun. With Season 3 on its way, we will be seeing a ton of new champions, items, and features brought into the game. First of which has been the new champion Zed, who no one has figured out how to play yet now that he's been released for a few days. And a teaser for a new champion has came to light, Namie, a support with a combination of defensive abilities and an offensive skill shot, and ooh la la, those skills are hot. We have tons of new and item removals that have us going woot and aw. Rest in peace, Heart of Gold. We will forever miss you. New Dragon Trainer Lulu and Bioforge Darius skins have been released. The highlight of my week has been turning people into little dragon eggs. Too cute! We have heard that there will be plenty of changes to the masteries. Again, some new changes to matchmaking with the possibility of ARAM queues. Riot better release this or I will start a riot. Soon we'll be shopping around with an updated UI for the in-game store that allows you to search for items and break them down into different categories. Hopefully this will help people not spend 5 minutes in base while you're in a ranked game. And this has been Awinia from the League of Girls. Back to Mock Norm, Deuces, and Rensler.
Well, thank you, Awinia, for that fantastic news section. And the big topic we're going to be discussing this week is items. In the past couple of weeks, we've seen a ton of new information about items coming out. Crazy stuff going on for Season 3, a bunch of changes that are going to be upcoming, and I wanted to take this episode and really kind of break down the information that we have available to us right now and kind of discuss what's going on. So I'm just going to go ahead and read through what we have going on here. We're going to be seeing some major changes to armor penetration, Elisa's Miracle, Tear of the Goddess, Archangel's Staff, a new item, Seraph's Embrace, Tiamat, Ravenous Hydra, a new item, Runon's Hurricane. We'll be seeing Blade of the Ruined King and Wicked Hatchet coming to Summoner's Rift, a new item, Sightstone, and a bunch of items removed. So let's get right into it. Now, the first big change to armor penetration is pretty significant in my opinion. What's happening is the base values of flat armor pen and armor penetration percent are being reduced. However, what will happen is the flat armor pen will be applied after the percentage. Is that correct?
Yes. The old way is flat applies first, percentages after that, the remainder. Now, the new way is percentage is on base, and then the flat comes from the result.
The scenario that we were given to replicate this change is the following. Let's say I have 50% armor penetration and 20 flat armor penetration versus a target with 120 armor. Currently on live, I would ignore 20 of his armor via flat penetration, and then 50% of the remaining, leaving him with 50 armor. After the change, I would ignore 50% of his armor, a value of 60, and then the 20 remaining, leaving him with 40 armor. Now, I don't know how you guys quite feel about this change, whether or not it's going to make a significant factor, but I feel like this lower amount helps me understand a little bit more about how armor penetration works. It's much easier for me to calculate and kind of figure out what is going on. And that could just potentially be because now it's been explained to me. But what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think I like the way that it is now, being armor pen. That makes more sense to take a flat base off and then do the percent of the remaining. That's just my honest opinion.
I think it'll be more interesting once we kind of see how this is going to factor into all of the champions and all of the items that actually give some form of armor penetration. There was a little bit of a review on how this actually works, broken down between some champions. Pantheon and Garen, I believe, were up there, and in particular the item Black Cleaver. But that was a long and lengthy discussion that went on in the forums. So I think this will be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out live.
I think it's going to be interesting, and it seems like Armor Pen's going to be a little bit more viable now, but I'm trying to look back. I'm trying to think back on the games that I've played. Have there been tanks that were simply unkillable because I didn't have enough armor penetration, or was it that I was AP and they were building all MR? Because this doesn't take magic resist into account at all. They're only talking about armor pen in this particular scenario, but I'm trying to see, is it that people are too high damage now, or is it that tanks are just too tanky? Based on this, based on the new math and the fact that you get lower values resulting from it, applying the percentage first, it seems like they want to make those super tanks a little bit weaker, because if you end up with 50% armor pen, which is actually kind of easy to do, especially with somebody like me, I play Darius a lot, and I love having armor pen on Darius after I get my attack speed and so my base damage up, because I just melt people with them. And that increased armor pen plus bloodletting on a champ like him, that's dangerous. I mean, he could snowball even further. Now you have to have a team that's willing to hold up in team fights. But going with this base armor percentage and then adding the flat on the back of it, that's going to be crazy. I don't know. I'd like to see if people start dying much faster, even though building a ton of armor. Because when you're up against a Darius, you want to build armor. You need that kind of life. Because even if you build straight health, you're not going to do well. You just won't. He will melt you. I mean, lots of health is great because the bloodletting does a little bit less to you on percentage of life, but it's still going to do the same amount of actual damage to you. It's like 40 or something per hit, something like that. But the idea that you also now have to make sure, oh yeah, I've got my Warmogs, but I guess I also have to build a Thornmail because I need that major armor, because now he's cutting off 40% or 50% automatically before my damage is calculated. That could be brutal. I see a lot of AD carries just going straight Destructo mode. It's like putting a bunch of people up against RoboCop and saying, have fun, because they'll mow through you because of all that damage. So it'll be interesting. They may balance it later, but it seems it's going to be really interesting with a lot of AD carries on how this new calculation works. Because I knew how it worked before, but now that they're reversing the way the math works, it's actually correct now. You're supposed to apply percentages first anyway. So this would be interesting.
Right. And I mean, I don't really know what went into the decision-making process to make this change now. I mean, is it just because the math works that way or should work that way, or are there some external forces?
Well, in a normal math calculation, when you're trying to do something that has a flat subtraction and a percentage, you apply the percentage first.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it makes more sense, but of course it's a game. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to obey normal math rules. And obviously they weren't up until now, and then they said, fine, we'll change it. I don't know the direct motivation for them changing it, but I do see logic in it. It's just going to suck for people that don't have a lot of armor, because all of it will be taken away by that percentage.
Yeah. And I think, though, that it's saying a lot with this new champion as well, who's straight up, like, what, both of his recommended items are Brutalizer and a...
Yeah, and that's damage and armor pen, isn't it?
Right. It's all he is a straight armor pen.
Mm-hmm.
His what is it, a Brutalizer and a Last Whisper? Those are his recommended items.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I love the Last Whisper on Darius. Love it.
And well, so it seems like that champion is going to be almost straight broken after this.
It really, yeah.
There probably
know.
will be some significant changes, and I don't think the information we have right now is the last of the item alterations and character alterations that we'll see by the end. So I think at this point we'll probably see maybe some reduction in the amount of armor pen. I mean, like they said, the overall values are going to be lowered across the board for everybody. So maybe we won't even notice this change at all. Maybe the added benefit and the reductions in value will kind of balance itself out, and this is just something that they're being open and transparent about, but overall really won't affect gameplay too much. Now, something that's going to affect my gameplay quite a bit is the item Elisa's Miracle. Right now in game, not all that great. It gives tenacity, but I typically pick up boots, merc treads if I need tenacity in a game. It's not something that I typically go to other items for unless it's a Quicksilver sash, I think it's called, where it removes all those effects. But the new abilities of it are 10 health per 5 seconds, 15 mana per 5 seconds, and a unique passive, Aid. Your heal, clairvoyance, and revive cooldowns are reduced by 20%. Probably going to be pretty huge for the supports. And another unique passive, if you gain 3 levels while holding Elisa's Miracle, you permanently gain 10 HP 5, 15 MP 5, and the Aid passive after the item disappears. Oh, sorry, and the item disappears from your inventory. So that's kind of crazy to me. An item that is meant to be temporary, and at a gold point of 1,175, that's not a cheap item. So, I mean, I play quite a bit of support. I could definitely see for that permanent benefit and gaining an item slot afterwards, it's definitely a good thing to pick up.
That's crazy. You know what that does though? That really makes it a strategic move. Oh, do I get it early and get all those benefits? Does it remove tenacity? Is it literally zeroing out your tenacity?
You don't. Well, the item no longer gives tenacity. So,
well, it says removed tenacity.
Correct. Previously, the item had tenacity on it, so you'd get the
reduced. So they removed that buff from it.
They removed, yes, tenacity from that.
Okay, so your heal, clairvoyance, revive cooldowns are all reduced while it's there. And then you gain 10 health per 5 and 15 mana per 5.
Right, and even after you gain 3 levels with it, that's when you...
Right, that's when it disappears, but you keep the gains. I don't know. 10 health per 5 and 15 mana per 5?
I think it's a rich supports option.
Yeah.
Now, we know that the utility tree is going to be releasing a gain gold on attack, on melee attack mastery. So it could be for supports who get a really good early game. You get that first blood, you get in there, and you've got that excess of gold in the beginning. You pick that up, and you've got a nice boost, a pad for the rest of the early game. But if you get up to level 15 and you're having to buy a couple of GP5s, if there are even GP5s, more on that, you may not be able to afford this over other items you need.
Yeah, now looking at it more, it's going to be interesting. I don't see myself as a support buying this because I would want 15 health per 5 instead of 10 to spend 1,200 on it because it goes away. I mean, I understand why it goes away, but
you get
to keep the bonus. It's interesting. To me, it seems like you just said, a rich supports. Your team invades and you get a couple kills and you start hitting things. You start getting more gold from that mastery because you don't have to kill them. You just have to hit them. And then let your carry do his work. Interesting. Very interesting. This is going to be cool. It's going to be really, I'm excited to see how pros do this or if they even use it.
Right.
Wow.
So an item I'm very excited for is Tear of the Goddess. Now, Tear of the Goddess is a part of a new, another item, Archangel Staff's being reworked as well. And then it gets into a whole new item. So the new stats of Tear of the Goddess is 250 mana, 7 mana per 5 seconds, and then a unique passive called Mana Charge. Each time you spend mana, your maximum mana increases by 4 on a 3-second cooldown and a bonus cap of 750. Now, a lot of the discussion that was going on with this item was that stuff like Ash's Q and Singed, his constant use of mana, all that stuff procs it, on a 3-second.
And Deer.
Yep.
Just switching stances and not worrying about actually aggroing a minion or something, because all of his stuff is all stance based. Yeah. You can just sit there and push Q and W until you get the max bonus.
Absolutely. Now, this item turns into Archangel Staff. 250 mana, 60 ability power, 10 mana per 5, a unique passive called Insight, 3% of your maximum mana in ability power, which is fantastic. And then the same unique passive, I imagine that it stacks, or it transfers over from your tier.
That's what I would expect. Yeah, if you buy the Archangel Staff before you're done with the bonus, it'll keep going.
I don't know if it does.
It seems like it should. It seems like it should.
Now, I didn't pick that up. It may, but it does give actually 1 more mana per spend.
And then it automatically transforms. Are you kidding me? Transforms into Seraph's Embrace once you get your mana bonus?
Yep, and that's 1,000 mana, 60 ability power still. Hold on now. Yeah, you know what? It's the same amount of mana you're getting once you hit that cap. It's the 1,000 mana total, 60 ability power,
but
10
look at
MP.
that active.
The active is the only thing you're gaining. Drain 25% of your current mana and gain a shield equal to that amount for 2.5
Now, is it
seconds.
of your current mana, not your max, or your actual current mana? Because if
your current mana, not your max.
If you have 100 mana left,
right,
you can hit this, and it's only going to spend 25.
Right, and not going to be worth.
Because to shield yourself for an equal amount for 2.5 seconds. Okay,
but that's going to be fantastic if you're a more tanky support like Leona.
You know what this says?
You have a ton of mana. Well,
that active screams. That active, seriously, looking at it now and thinking about the situation, that thing screams Team Fight Initiator.
Yep.
Run in, proc that. You've got full mana, full health. Go do whatever. Do your damage. Do your CC. Depending on what champ you are, especially for AP carries. And then get out of there using flash or something.
Right, or a protection from a gank as well. I'd be interested to see. I think this would take too long to be a factor in the jungle for magic-based junglers. It could be kind of interesting because you're building mana up over time, and you kind of have that scale going. It could be something that's useful, but I don't know if the active bonus at the end will really play as a factor. Now, Jackson, you're a big Fizz player, and Fizz, yes. Well, you do AD occasionally.
No, I just straight AP.
Well, you jungle with him. Is he AP in the jungle?
Kind of.
He's AP all day, man.
You build like a you start with a little attack speed, and then you build a Wriggles, and then you basically start building. You could build one maybe AP attack item like Gnasher's Tooth. Attack speed AP, but then you really go straight AP after that again.
To my knowledge, you don't play that many APs. How do you feel about this item?
I guess I can't decide. I'm gonna have to see it before I really make a decision on it.
Right.
I'm very skeptical when it comes to new items that they're gonna be worth my while, because I'm so set in like, okay, this is my AP build for Fizz. Why would I want to change it?
Right. And I mean, there's always a little bit of variance in your gameplay depending on what you're playing against, but I can certainly agree with having that kind of setup stance of these are the items that I'm going to get in this order unless something crazy happens. And this is definitely an item that you're going to kind of have to tier along as you go. One thing that I know you will be super excited about, though, Ace Deuces, is the now redone Tiamat. Melee only, 50 attack damage, 15 health per 5 seconds. A unique passive called Cleave. I guess a brief thing here. I've noticed that they've given all of the unique passives names now. They all have some sort of name that explains what they do, which I like.
You know why? So casters know what they're talking about. You get a bunch
Correct.
of casters, even the guys that know exactly like Rivington, and oh yeah, there's the active from the blah blah blah, and it doesn't actually have a damn name. So
Absolutely.
now
And
they're giving it
items-
a name. It's like, oh, look at that cleave, that was insane, things like that. So when they're
And-
calling the games, everything has a name.
when you have the same passive on different items, I think it helps when it's unique. You know, it has cleave. You can only have one instance of cleave or one instance of insight.
Right.
I think that's going to help a lot. So cleave being attached to Tiamat is stupid crazy. Attacks deal up to 60 damage,
60%.
60% damage of your attack damage to units you target, or to units around your target, decaying to 20% near the edge. I don't know what the edge is yet. I don't think anybody does, but that's going to be interesting to see.
So like the farther away you are, then the less damage.
Exactly.
Right.
So think of just standard AoE ring, and
That's gonna
Well-
be sick on Kale though.
Okay,
That's
but
gonna
get this.
literally.
But get this, the unique active Crescent deals 100% of your attack damage to units around you, decaying down to 60% near the edge.
and it only
Now-
has a 10-second cooldown.
Imagine being a Zed, popping or forget about Zed, Garen, with health per 5,
Broken.
running around, cleaving people, and using that active. I mean, that on Tiamat, which is a pretty easily gotten item, is
I wonder if they're gonna change
crazy.
the price though.
They're gonna have to
may,
change the
they
price.
may.
It has to go up.
Yeah,
It's
if they're gonna
too
make
good.
items like that, then they have to make them more expensive. Like Trinity Force, one of the better items of the game, is used on multiple AD champions. You almost don't not get it in when you're an AD
Right.
burst
Now,
caster or anything.
The
But I
interest-
mean that one's the most expensive item in the game.
And it should be.
But the interesting thing is, this isn't even my final form. This isn't even the final form of Tiamat. Tiamat will build into Ravenous Hydra. Ravenous Hydra, now like Tiamat, is a melee-only item. 75 AD, 15 health per 5, 10% lifesteal, passive, not unique, but just regular passive. Damage dealt by this item works with lifesteal. What is that damage? Cleave, again,
And
same
Crescent.
thing. And Crescent, again, same thing.
Oh crap!
Yeah, Cleave and
So-
Crescent are involved in the
blow-
lifesteal.
You blow up.
You
You
blow
blow
up, dude.
You blow up
Everything's
with
pink
health.
mist once you hit it.
Couple notes about this item before we get into normal discussion, because I banged my mic with my hand. So these items are for melee champions only. Now, where this kind of gets weird is for champions like Gangplank, who their auto attacks are melee, but they have ranged ability. The stupid thing is that these melee champions who have a melee auto attack, get these effects, the cleave, well, it's mostly actually just cleave, on their ranged abilities. So Gangplank can use Parlay as a quote-unquote melee cleaving ability,
Only if it's within range.
only if it's within range.
We don't know what that is yet. But
Right.
no, actually, it would work because if you're hitting, because is that considered a melee?
It is, because even though it's a ranged spell that he's using, because he is a melee champion, it
The game
procs
considers it
cleave.
melee. Oh no.
Now, the kind of silver lining to this, and I say silver lining, I'm super pumped. I'm ready for this. But the silver lining for people who hate this is this doesn't work with Spellvamp, Crit, or Sheen.
Good.
So, well, they said Crit yet. They don't know. They still have to test it. I think a Crit with this would be kind of nasty. And the only other important thing to note really is Jace. Because he can toggle between melee and ranged, what is he considered? When he's in his ranged stance, he is a ranged champion. This item doesn't work. When he's in melee, he's a melee champion.
Except he can poke you down in ranged mode, and when you get dumb or he gets kind of cocky, he
absolutely.
will jump in, and
I mean, that's the strategy with Jace.
your
anyway.
face
You've got
is
the-
hamburger at that point.
You've got the knock up. You've got all that stuff. Jace can use it, but it's gonna kind of have to become.
Oh man.
It's a decision point, I think. So
I think the decision's just to get them and slash face roll on anybody, especially in ARAM.
I want this on Garen. I want to run into a group as
Oh my
Garen with too
God.
much health and too much resistances.
And I'll show up as Lux, and I'll give you some CC and slow him down or do the binding.
Yeah, and
And
just Crescent.
that's
and
it,
just
dude. That's game over.
Crescent with lifesteal. And you
Lux
blow
and
up.
Garen
Or-
with those items, if you put Lux with all the AP stuff and you give this stuff to Garen, that's kill lane bot done. You guys have to do that. You have to do it. New
Lee Sin-
items.
Lee Sin, Q in, Crescent, W out.
Oh god.
Zed, copy in, Crescent, copy out.
Game over.
It's gonna be
Oh,
insane.
they should just call that item the double kill. Because every time you use it for anything and you're not a complete dirt player, you will get a double kill. Anybody that you get that you're directly going after, you will kill them. And the other guy is like, oh no, my friend just died. Oh crap, he's still here. He's dead too. That's just how
And
it's going to work.
I don't know if this item is underpowered enough or the trade-off is good enough to not merit picking it up on any melee AD. The 15 health per 5 is a little odd. It's kind of a weird place to put an item like this. It seems like you would only build that on certain people, and especially if you didn't have the passives there at all, you would kind of question who that's for. But I think that you just kind of like laugh at the 15 HP 5 and go, okay, whatever, it's there.
That
So
stuff
I don't
works,
know.
man.
I'm excited.
That stuff
I'm excited.
works. I'm telling you. I was
And
playing Warwick and an ARAM yesterday, and all of my health per 5 stuff just kept me going.
Oh yeah, and Cho'Gath, when you get the holy trinity of HP 5s, which God rest force of nature, but we'll get into that later. HP 5 is crazy, but it's only on those kind of bigger, tankier champions, and Garen, well, even though he is the bigger, tankier champion, that you kind of see this stuff. So I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting how that stat got in there. Is it a throwback just to Tiamat's? Is it a design change? Only time will tell. Speaking of telling time, the terrible segue into Runan's Hurricane. Now, this is the hats off to the ranged champions who are getting belittled by the Tiamats and the ravenous hydras of the world. It's a ranged only item, 60% attack speed, absolutely crazy. A unique passive, oddly enough not named, where your basic attacks fire minor bolts at 2 target nearby enemies, each dealing 50% of your total attack damage and physical damage. These will also apply on hit effects. Now, this wouldn't work with something like Vayne, where it needs to be your target, or Xin Zhao, where his passive, it needs to be the person you're targeting. But Ash's slow that she can apply to her arrow for mana, that's going to now hit 3 people rather than just 1. It's insane, and a ton of attack speed. It's a fantastic item.
What they're doing, and I think that they're doing it really well, is they just gave us 4 or 5 strong items that you can build your champion around rather than just your Bloodthirster Phantom Dancer.
They're diversifying, and that's one of their goals, is they want these kind of specific items that you can take different turns with in your build. I didn't really love the thought of having to have that 1 or 2 variable items depending on the team you're playing. So I think you're right on the head there, Deuces. This is definitely a good way to kind of split up and make new items for people to build into.
It's going to be a lot of options. It's going to be interesting to see how low and high elo play works out.
Yep, absolutely. Now, not necessarily new items because they've been existing on Twisted Treeline, but we will be receiving in Summoner's Rift 2 items from that rework. We have Blade of the Ruined King, for those of you who haven't been playing Twisted Treeline, is a 40 attack damage, 10 lifesteal, unique passive rather, where your attacks deal 4% of the target's current health and magic damage and heals you for half that amount, and an active ability where you drain target champion, dealing 150 physical damage plus 50% of your attack damage and healing you by the same amount. Additionally, you steal 30% of their movement speed for 2 seconds on a 60-second cooldown. I love that item. I love that
man, you take somebody. Oh no, you take somebody like Lux with all that CC. You can almost keep them in that constantly. And Ashe and Ezreal have now become that much more dangerous. I would hate to see Ezreal chasing you with that thing.
The range on the active is a little short, so I don't know how much a ranged champion would love that.
It's going to
But
be for getting that kill. It's going to be for, hey,
yeah,
get that guy before he flashes, or
yeah,
something like that, or giving the opportunity to the melee champs to just come in and just destroy, especially if they have that Tiamat. But it's going to help. Even with a ranged champ, obviously you can shoot right in front of you, and they'll be taking the damage. So it's kind of that trade-off. That's the, well, I could hit you with this really awesome thing and get a bunch of damage, but I may get kicked in the face in the process. So
I misspoke a little bit when I said this isn't for ranged champions. What I meant to say was this is for primarily attack speed champions, I think, over, and that there's certainly a lot of ranged attack speed champions.
oh yeah,
They have removed Blood
Teemo?
Razor, Madred's Blood Razor from the
Really?
which we'll get into in a little bit, but this is kind of the replacement. I think they liked it in Twisted Tree Line, and it came in here. And the only other item we're getting from Twisted Tree Line is Wicked Hatchet, which is a 20 attack damage, 18% critical strike chance, and a passive of your basic attacks inflict grievous wound on an enemy champion, causing 50% health reduction and regeneration for 1.5
50%
seconds.
reduced healing. Health reduction is different.
50%
If you're
reduced.
going up against a Mundo or a Swain, that item is going to be key.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plenty of champions have grievous wound as a part of their kit, however, so I think that is sort of a utility for some others who don't have the ability to cause that without picking up something like exhaust
I agree.
to sort of shut down somebody's ability. And the item that I'm stupid excited for, like, give this to me right now. I'm going to buy it every single game as a support or as a jungler. Sightstone. It rolls off the tongue. Sightstone. I love it. 650 gold. What do you get? 125 health. Boom. Unique passive. Refresh. Start with 4 charges and refills each time you stop by your shop. What is that? That's a ward. It gives you automatically renewing wards.
What?
Unique active, Ghost Ward. Consume a charge to place an invisible ward that reveals the surrounding area for 3 minutes. You may have a maximum of 2 wards from this item at once.
That's pretty cool.
So
every support better buy that, or the carry should punch them.
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. In my opinion, pick up wards early game, get to Elise's Miracle, complete it, pick this item up as its replacement. Because you're getting the benefits from the Miracle. You've got a ton of good stuff from there. And then it's key because it takes the thought process of getting a ward every single time out of it. And that isn't, in my opinion, it's not to the point where everybody should have this item. 125 health isn't that much, but it eases that ability. You can just go in, get your wards, get out.
Honestly, I think this kind of changes the game a little bit, seriously, because it's a unique passive, refreshes your wards. So if you already have a ward out there, you can go and refresh a ward.
Well, it refreshes the charges. So you put down your 3-minute wards, they'll expire as normal wards do and can be popped like normal wards do. But you can get your charges back by going back. So basically, you put down your first 2 wards because you can only do 2 at once. Those expire. You get to put down 2 more. Then you need to go back and refresh. But it's not like you need to buy anything or you need to purposely recharge that. It does it automatically.
Right, you don't have to buy anything, and that's the biggest thing, is that you have 2 free permanent wards, because if you keep going back, if you keep going back, right as one expires, you can place the replacement.
Absolutely.
And you can do that 6 minutes at a time. So you only if you're placing out the maximum amount of wards, which it's recommended that you do, you only have to go back if you want to keep them up every 6 minutes.
That is 8.6 wards you're paying for. So 4 rounds of 2 wards, and you've paid for the item and made your team very happy.
And you're going to be warding a lot. I mean, you're going to be doing that. So.
And if you think about it, any lane could use 2 wards. You've got Tri-Bush and River Bush top, the same on bottom, the 2 River Bushes in mid, and then to your late game, you can either be warding Dragon and Baron at once, or your red and your blue. It's it's perfect, really.
And if more than one person has it,
Oh, yeah.
because it's only
Oh, yeah.
650 gold,
Everywhere.
late game, that's a couple kills. That's it.
Yep. I mean, it's a tough late game item to hold on to once you get into those final builds and kind of getting into that final push.
See, that's something else I want to talk about real quick, is that I haven't seen very many champs that require a 6-slot build to be really successful, regardless of elo, honestly. So seeing this as a sidestone taking up that slot, that's not too big of a downer for me. I don't see that as a major penalty at all.
Right.
I know a lot of champs that if you build 4-slot builds or a 5-slot build, you're fine. So that last one can either be health pot, wards, or this.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why they have elixirs in the game in the first place, is because you can either in between times or to kind of top off your build before you complete it, purchase an elixir, get that little bit of a boost for a short bit.
And let me talk about speaking of elixirs, let me talk about stuff that's not going to be here anymore, if I can do that.
Sure.
So, the Meki pendant and the rejuvenation beads, they're gone.
Boom.
Madrid's blood razor, it's gone.
Replaced by the Rune King blade.
Yes,
Blade
and guess what? Everybody's favorite OP item, the Ionic Spark, that's gone.
But it will be replaced by an item that they have not released.
Yeah, they haven't even told us what it's going to be. The Elixir of Agility, it's gone. And
also playing into the unnamed item.
Yes, and one of my favorite little friends, that warm little Warwick pillow I grab at the beginning or near the beginning of my game to make sure I don't die so quickly, my Heart of Gold, it's gone. So now I don't have my little 200 health gold for 10 anymore. It's gone. At least I've got the freaking regrowth pendant or whatever it is. The other one that gives me health per second, health per 10.
Yep.
That. I don't know what the FON is. What's an FON?
Force of Nature is gone.
The Force of Nature's gone.
They thought that there was too many abilities in one singular item, but that's the reason why I loved it. You get 8% movement speed, you get a ton of magic resist, you get a ton of HP 5. It was Cho'Gath's happy place, and now it's gone.
Well,
but they will be changing war mugs to make it better.
Yeah, and that's awesome because I love war mugs. In fact, during that ARAN that we lost, which sucked, I built 2 of them. Just to make sure, because I had 5,200 health, and guess what? They still melted me. I even had MR, and they still melted me. I don't get it. They had 4 out of 5 champs were all AP, so I built health and a bunch of MR, and it didn't matter. I got melted anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Something else that everybody's loving in Summoner's Rift, all those base battles where you get caught out and you're like, oh crap, I wish I had a second chance. So that's what your GA for is, right? Well, guess what? Morello posted stuff on Twitter that says the GA's gonna get nerfed, resulting in the player being weaker when it's on cooldown, which means, okay, it saved your butt, you're coming back to life like the Highlander. Guess what? You don't do as much damage and your attack speed's a little bit lower. Maybe that's what the weaker means. We don't know. We don't know what the debuffs are going to be or how long they're going to last for. Obviously, it seems like it's just going to be the cooldown, which I think is 65 seconds, something like that. So you're going to have a little bit of penalty for dying, kind of like a zombie, but we'll see how things do. I mean, if your team's there and you just got caught in some just really hokey kind of leash or a blitzcrank pull or something like that, then GA will still bring it back, but you're going to have a little bit of a penalty for it. And hopefully your crew can rally the troops and win that kind of base fight. That's where I see it happening. It's either on the ganks or in the team fights, or especially that base defense, that last push, we have to stop them guys kind of base push, to where you're just manning in front of the turrets trying to protect that nexus.
Yep. I hope it is similar to Exhaust, this weaker
Probably
effect.
will be.
I want it to be that when you come out, you not the whole time obviously, but let's just say when you resurrect, you get the full duration of an Exhaust, and you have to escape out of that, because the worst thing is when you have a Vayne in your base and she's at the top of her build and she has a GA and you blow her up in 2 seconds and she comes back alive and gets a triple kill because she just has that explosive damage. Or an Aurelia who just comes back to life.
is in the last couple tournaments that Moscow 5 has played in, I think 3 or 4 of them all would get GAs and they'd double team fight. Like they'd win every team fight just because they each had 2 health bars.
Yep. And it's a fantastic item. It's the worst to play against.
Yep.
Sometimes
That's why it's a fantastic item. It's great to have it because everybody hates playing against you.
Sometimes when you shut somebody down, like great, you wait over their body for them to come back up and then you finish them off. But other times in the heat of a team fight when their AD carry has it and you got to kill them first, you're going to have to kill them again. And it's super, super annoying. But I love it. I'm interested to see what the nerf is.
Right.
I doubt that it will make it unplayable, but I can picture it being an aggressive pushes temporary item. Pick up the item when you're about to go on a huge push, get the effect if the push fails, and then sell it right after in lieu of something else.
Well,
you
that
know,
brings
those
up
end game things.
That brings up something very interesting, and that is this. Okay, then the normal cooldown on a GA, let's say it's 65 seconds.
It's 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. So 600 seconds. So they're saying the entire time that this is on cooldown, you have some kind of debuff. What if I get killed, I go back to my base, and I sell it? Do I get rid of do I just drop the debuff because I sold it? And yes, I have the penalty that I didn't get as much gold as I could, and I have to spend more to buy another one. So that's 2 things. 1, if I sell it and buy another one, does the cooldown reset? And 2, if I sell and buy another one, or if I just sell it at all, does the debuff go away, or does it stay? What I'm saying is when you sell it and buy a new one, the cooldown should be remembered in the calculation.
The debuff should stick with you.
Well, not only that, but I'm talking about the cooldown. The cooldown should not refresh. The cooldown, it should make you wait and say, no, I know what you're trying to do. That kind of thing. It doesn't now?
Yeah, if you buy a GA, it gets procced, and then you sell it and buy a new one, it keeps the same.
Good. And that means, based on that, I really believe that the debuff should stick too, even if you sell it.
Well, I think one of 3 things will happen. Either 1, it'll be a temporary effect that's really quick, but nerfs your straight out of respawn ability. Something like how I mentioned exhaust. You get exhausted just as soon as you get up, and then after it's done, you're back up to full strength. Either that, or it'll be a trickle-down effect, where as soon as you spawn, you have this, let's say it's negative 10% all attributes, so your attack speed, your attack damage, your resistances, all of that's lowered, but then every 30 seconds or something like that, you gain a percentage of that back until you're up to full strength. I very much doubt it's going to be a flat debuff for 5 minutes. I think that would nerf the item into just complete non-usability, because you'll respawn and be back at full strength as a team way after 5 minutes. So losing a team fight where that gets procced will kill you, because you won't be able to retreat and protect your bases effectively if your team fight goes sour.
That'll be nuts.
Yeah. So that's all we have for the items. It'll be interesting to see in the upcoming weeks as we move into Season 3 proper what new items come out. We are in the preseason right now, of course, the preseason where the items are made up and the elo doesn't really matter. And once we move into Season 3, we'll have all this stuff down. We'll probably get a little bit of a beta testing time, so to speak, to get these things worked out. So talking about communities in League of Legends is one of the things that this podcast was founded on. The idea that there are people out there dedicating their free time outside of the game to make the game a better place through discussion and media and all sorts of great stuff is really what kind of energized this podcast. And this week, our shameless self-promotion will be just that. We're talking about us. Now, we're on our 18th episode now here at the podcast, and it has been a very fun and exciting trip for us. Ace Deuces is a new member of the team. Renzler and I have been here since the start, and we're still full of energy. Our break was minor at that. It was to bring you guys a better show, and some of the things that we have coming out is what we really want to talk about now. Now on severitygaming.com, by the end of this week, we will have our own web portal. You'll be able to watch the podcast there as opposed to iTunes or YouTube in its native audio form. There'll be a forum, there'll be a gallery, you'll be able to communicate to us. We'll have contests on there, and it's going to be a great place to kind of meet up and sort of be our physical home. We've always been a Severity Gaming podcast, but now we're actually going to go ahead and live on the site in addition to in your ears and in your hearts. Now, after much internal debate with myself and with some discussion with the rest of the team. So we'll be starting an affiliation program with some really cool and exciting companies that basically we will be offering you guys new offers, exciting offers that make us money. There's no easier way to put it. I won't try to doctor it up, but we will be using this money to enhance the show and give you guys the best content we can. Make a little bit of money for us on the side, always a great thing. We do put a lot of effort into the show, and having that continued support is really important to us. I don't feel comfortable accepting any direct donations. I don't think I'm going to ask you guys for that, I think, at this point. But through this affiliation program, we get to hook up with some really cool companies. You guys get some really great deals, and I think everybody benefits from that. And a part of these sort of new things that we gain through money is actually a mobile application. We will be on the Apple Store, we will be on the Android market and Windows 8, as well as a mobile friendly HTML version. So that will be cool and exciting. It's coming up in the future. I'm currently in the process of self alpha testing that to make sure that the RSS feed works and that you can listen to the podcast on it and send us fun little emails telling us how much you hate our show and everything is terrible and I can't pronounce words. And I think it's just going to be great. So we got the website, we've got a mobile application, we've got the affiliation program. It's it's fantastic. It's a big step for us. We're liking the new format internally. It's a little bit cleaner. I think on your end it sounds a little bit better. And please send us feedback. This is going to wrap up the episode and we'd love to hear from you. So you guys have always been great in sending us in questions and everything else that when we've asked for it. So please continue to do that. You can contact us through Twitter, probably the best way, at Instalock Mid. You can reach us now on the Severity Gaming website. That will be up and live soon. Or you can email either Rensler or I at our respective names, Macanorm or Rensler, at severitygaming.com or astuces at killingbot@gmail.com. So thank you for watching the show. We're happy to be back. We're excited to be back, and we're excited to have you joining us again. This is, as always, your host, Macanorm, signing off with Ace Deuces.
Wonderful evening, everybody. Stay filthy.
And Rensler.
So apparently Rensler's actually having microphone problems right now where we are not able to hear anything he's saying. So this is Rensler as Deuces signing off.